Hi, my name is Eminar, and I want to share something that's really personal with you. And that's my story and my testimony and my journey with God. And I'm here to give you that story, and it's a story of hope. Hope that maybe you can relate to it in one way or another. And so I grew up Christian. Like, my entire family was a Christian. We went to church every Sunday, and if my parents didn't want to go to church or couldn't, I'd go with a friend, and if they couldn't, then I'd be just dragging my parents with me to church. I just wanted to be there all the time, and I loved it. I loved that community. I loved being in that space, surrounded just by a bunch of people who believed in something that was bigger than themselves. And so it felt really warm, and it felt safe, and it felt like home. And at that time, I just had this childlike faith. I'd realized that maybe it wasn't my personal faith with God. It was more so something like my parents' faith. And so I was there also a lot of the times because my friends would be there and my community is there. And so it's a nice opportunity to see my friends outside of school and just hang out with them. And in all that, from a really young age, I was around like 7 or 8 years old, I started feeling something was kind of off. And I would hear my friends say things like, well, God spoke to me, or I felt God tell me this or that. And honestly, I believed them. Why wouldn't I? They're my friends. And so I started to wonder, why wasn't God speaking to me? Did he not like me as much? Did I do something wrong? Was he upset with me? I didn't really understand it at the time, but I really started to feel overlooked and like God was kind of skipping over me. And so that really struck a deep chord inside me, and that quiet little lie that maybe I wasn't as loved, that started to grow. And that's really where this entire story starts. So as I got older, that feeling of being overlooked by God kind of turned into something deeper. And I still believed in him, and like conceptually I knew he was real, but I didn't feel that closeness. I didn't feel like I had that emotional or personal relationship people always kept talking about. And so honestly, I didn't know how to get it as well. I wasn't reading my Bible by any means. Even still, I had that ache, that longing to feel seen by God, like really seen. To better explain this, I just want to tell you this short story that kind of still makes, it makes me laugh now, but at the time it was really, really real to me. And I was 9, and our church had this little library that everybody knew about. Everybody would go there, me and all my friends. And I bought this tiny plastic blue little ring with a cross on it for like 30 cents or something. And I took it home and I put it under my pillow. And the next morning I told all my friends at church, hey guys, look what God gave me. And I would pull out this ring. And then they give me these weird looks, very rightfully so, because they had very similar rings to those and knew exactly where I had got it from. And so I knew that I was lying to myself, and then I got weird looks from my friends. But I don't know, I just wanted to feel special. I wanted to be able to say that, hey, God did something for me too. But deep down, I knew that I had bought this ring and it wasn't a miracle or sent down from heaven or something. But I just wanted to feel like I belonged, and I wanted to feel chosen. So then fast forward a few years, and we moved to Canada. I was 16. We came here because my parents really wanted to give us a fresh start, for a better future. So my parents came with me, and we stayed here for a little while, like a month or so. And then they ended up going back to the Middle East, and I stayed here alone. And that's when everything kind of started unraveling. I was in a completely new country, in a completely different culture than the one I had been raised in, and nothing at all felt familiar. I didn't have my parents, my support system. I didn't have my community. I didn't have that comfort or routine or belonging. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I started to develop this mindset of, okay, if no one else is going to hold things together for me, then I guess I have to. And I felt that huge pressure to take control of my emotions and my future and my decisions and my relationships and literally everything. And so slowly but surely I started drifting away from God, not in a dramatic overnight kind of a way. It was really subtle. It was really quiet. I just started depending more on me because in my head, God wasn't showing up. And if he wasn't going to show up, I would have to figure it out for myself. In the first place, at that time, I didn't really have that close connection to God. And so it didn't feel like I was losing too much. Now, I had always been very close with my dad, and him and I really understood each other. And I believe that our minds work in very similar ways. Plus, I'm his first little girl. And so we have this bond, and to this day, it's a really powerful and beautiful bond. But around that time, again, when I was 16, first arriving to Canada, they had left back to the Middle East. I would call them all the time, and my dad and I would just have so many beautiful, deep conversations that really got you thinking. And so he was telling me about the research that he had been doing and the people that he'd been listening to, and the new conclusion that he came to, a conclusion that was very different than the one that I had grown up with. His conclusion was that Jesus is simply a historical man who said so many great things, but he was not God. And so I would ask him questions about faith, which he would answer very thoroughly and very thoughtfully, but it was from his perspective. And so then he would ask me questions to get me thinking. And those questions, I realized that now, far removed from that situation, those questions were designed in a way to really challenge your faith. And those seeds were planted in me and kept growing the more that I spoke with my dad. So for him, stepping away from God wasn't emotional by any means. It was logical. For me, it was a bit of both, although I wouldn't admit at the time that my anger really drove that aspect of my emotions. But I trusted my dad so deeply. I figured if he thinks, if he's sure of what he's saying, then maybe he's right. And also, he's my dad. He'd never steer me wrong, right? So at the same time, I was making new friends here in Canada. Friends who didn't grow up with the same faith background as I did. Friends who drank, smoked, partied. And at first, I still would say no to all of these things. And there was a voice in the back of my head that was like, what if this God thing is actually real? And I didn't want to regret this if it ended up that way. But when you're alone and in a new place and craving connection and desperate to feel like you belong, eventually that voice just gets quieter and quieter and quieter. And honestly, I just wanted to fit in. I wanted to feel like somebody chose me. Church didn't feel the same here either. I couldn't find a place that really felt like home. Nothing compared to my church community in Dubai. And it wasn't because it was like a great church or anything, it was just because all my friends were there. And so I didn't want to replace what I had because in my heart, it felt like betrayal to do that. So instead of trying harder to find a new community, I just gave up. I stopped trying altogether and I stopped praying, I stopped reading, and without realizing it, I stopped seeking. And eventually I just gave into the lie. Maybe this God thing isn't real. Maybe it's not for me. Maybe I've just been chasing that something that wasn't actually there ever. And for a while, I lived like that. I told myself that this is my life and I'm gonna take the wheel and I'm gonna figure it out and I'll do what I want. I'll carry it. But carrying it was a lot heavier than I had expected. In 2020, COVID hit. And I was 18 at the time, just finishing my first year of my undergrad, and I needed to find a co-op job. And as you are well aware, the isolation and the disconnect just made everything so much worse. My family relationships were getting a little bit shaky. At this point, my mom had come back to visit, and things were not going very well. And I was trying to find a co-op job, which I needed to graduate. And so no matter how hard I tried, nothing was working out. So school was really stressful. And my friendships were also draining. Things were really shifting at that time, and it was just very uncertain time. And I felt like I was drowning in just failure and confusion all the time. Until one Monday night, when I was just in my kitchen, literally just trying to make a sandwich, and I just broke. I dropped to the floor and I was just crying. Not dramatically, I didn't say anything that was crazy. I was just tired and I was done. And I cried out and I was just exhausted. And I just said that, God, if you're there, if you're actually there, you're gonna have to take care of this because I cannot. I'm done. And I meant it. And I wasn't trying to say something theological. I didn't really know how to say a good prayer, quote unquote, but I just couldn't do it anymore. And I had tried to hold everything together on my own. And I was just so tired. And what I didn't know at that time was that this one simple, honest moment of surrender was just about to change everything. So after that moment on the kitchen floor, literally just me, my tears, and a half-made sandwich waiting for me, something shifted. I didn't even know what I was asking for exactly. I just said, God, I'm just gonna need you to fix this. And I meant it. There were no fancy words, no big theological prayer, just me in my kitchen being real. And then the wildest thing happened. The very next day, one by one, all of the things that were weighing on me started to lift. And my mom, who I had a tense relationship with at the time, came to me and apologized, which was weird and shocking because I was the one in the wrong at that time. And so we both apologized to each other, and it was the start of healing. And so then on Wednesday, my sister did the same thing. And then the guy that I was in a struggling relationship with, the relationship was not going very well, but he came and he apologized to me when, again, I was the one that was in the wrong. And so in literally just 3 days after that prayer, all these relationships that felt like they were just falling apart just started coming back together. Not perfectly and not instantly, but beautifully. And so then on Thursday, I ended up talking to someone from the church that my mom goes to, Life in Christ ministry, about needing a co-op job. And she didn't have something for me directly, but she invited me to a youth event, and I went. And so that's where I met Regda. And that one meeting led to an interview, which led to a job at a church of all places. So after all of that, after the apology chain, the co-op job falling into place, relationships healing, I couldn't ignore that there was something that was bigger and outside of me at work. And I started to think that maybe this God thing is real. But I wasn't ready to say that it was the Christian God. After all, that felt still off to me, like the Christian God and I had history together. And I was still holding on to the same pain, some confusion, and a lot of unanswered questions. So I decided that if I was going to take this seriously, I had to do it properly. And I wasn't just about to blindly follow something without knowing what I was getting myself into. So I started searching as best as I can. I read the Buddhist texts. I loved some of the peace and compassion in Buddhist teachings. But at the end of the day, he never claimed to be God. Just a man who found enlightenment. That was good, but it wasn't enough for me. I needed something bigger than myself, a real power, a real God. I looked into Sikhism. That too has beautiful traditions and values, but again, it just didn't quite fit. And then I turned to Islam, and I didn't just skim, I studied. I had many Muslim friends, and they walked me through it, and so I read the Quran, I read the Hadiths, I read the Sunan, I asked questions, and I listened to my friends, and I was just honest with myself. I spent months, around 8 months, just digging deep into it. But no matter how hard I tried to make it make sense, there were just things that I couldn't get past. And here's the funniest part of it all. Like, God really has a sense of humor. While I was out here reading the Quran and challenging Christianity, he had me working in a church, like actually employed by a Christian organization, and I was teaching Sunday school, which was definitely controversial to say the least. And I was joining in on Bible studies when I could and reading the Gospels, at first to prep for lessons. But come on, like, God knew what he was doing. And it's not like I was pretending to believe. I was honest, and I was still questioning everything. Regda was leading our Bible studies, and I gave her a very hard time during that time. And I was like that one kid in the group who always had just one more question or a very hot take, trying to just poke holes in everything I was listening to. So looking back, it's kind of hilarious that God literally had me surrounded by his word, his people, his truth, and I was fighting tooth and nail to prove it wrong. But something then happened, and without me realizing it, the word of God started sinking in. The kids I taught would just ask so many beautiful and good questions, and I'd be forced to go back and actually study the Bible to give them the answer that they deserved. After all, their parents had entrusted them to me. And so slowly, the things I once thought were problems started becoming clearer. Even the parts of the Old Testament that I really struggled with, that used to throw me off, like God, being angry and allowing war, I started to understand those through the lens of the context and justice and holiness. And I even looked into Judaism, which helped me understand the roots of the Old Testament and the nature of a theocracy, how God was the governing body, not just some distant being throwing lightning bolts down on people. And then finally, I came back to the Gospels and Jesus. And this time, I read things differently. I wasn't just trying to read them to teach the lessons or to dispute what was being said. For the first time ever, I was really reading just to see. And one night, I lay in bed quietly, and I was just thinking to myself, I didn't hear some loud voice or see fireworks. I just had this peace inside me, and I didn't know how to explain it. And so I just said, God, I think I know enough now. I mean, I definitely don't know everything, but with what I do know, I'm going to say yes. And that was it. That was the moment. When I woke up, everything was different. And I know that sounds cliche or like super Christian, but it's true. I didn't even understand the lingo that people use, like that veil was lifted or that you're a new creation, but I definitely felt it. I saw the world differently. I saw people differently. I felt love in a way that I didn't know I could feel before. I would walk down the street and look at strangers and just regular people, and I think, you know, Jesus died for you. Like, even if you were the only person left on the planet, he would have still came down and gone through everything that he went through. And that's just how much he loves. And it's not even guaranteed that you'll love him back, but he does it anyway, for the chance that you might. And that kind of love just changes you. And so I became different. Honestly, kind of unhinged, but I would say in the best way. I couldn't keep it to myself. I'd go to Regda and just be like, okay, when are we going out? I need to go and tell people about Jesus, like right now. And I didn't even have all of the answers or the verses memorized or anything of the sort, but it just didn't matter to me. I had found this treasure and I needed people to know about it. And then something powerful happened. I went to this conference with some friends and they had this soaking session. Just you and God and stillness, no fancy prayers, no words, just space for him to speak. And in that quiet, he did. I started to see this picture forming, and it wasn't a dream. I wasn't asleep, and I don't know if it was a vision, but something just started forming in front of me, and I just saw myself covered in black completely. And there was darkness all over me and around me. And then this light appeared. And from that light, two hands kind of came out. And I'd realized that there were holes in these hands. And then a voice, not loud, but definitely clear, and it was just deep in me. And it just said, daughter, come to me. And I walked into the light, and those hands wrapped around me, and then they opened again, and the black was gone. And I was clean. I was new and covered in light. At that time, I didn't really know the idea of, Jesus giving us his righteousness. But later I read about it in scripture and I realized that that's exactly what had happened. Everything I had carried, that shame, that guilt, that rejection, that confusion, it was just all gone. And in its place was light, peace, and purpose. I read in the Bible later that we're no longer slaves to fear, but we are called children of God and we are adopted into his family. And it just made sense. That deep ache for belonging I carried my whole life, that was it. I belong and I'm his. And I still don't have everything figured out. I mean, I graduated not long ago and now I'm in this place again of asking God, okay, what's next? But the difference is that this time I'm not scared because I know who holds my future. One verse that just sums up the entire journey is Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6. And it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all of your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. That's exactly what he did. I leaned on myself for so long, and I tried to fix everything and carry everything and be everything. And in one moment of just surrender, he just won. That's all he was waiting for. He stepped in and he did what I never could. So if you're listening to this and feel like you're lost or tired or like God has just passed you by, I need you to know that he hasn't. He sees you and he knows every doubt, every tear, every late night thought, and he's not far. He's right there, arms open wide, just waiting for you to come home. And so this is my story. But more than that, it's a story of hope. And that hope, it's for you too.